And welcome once again to Conversations with the Owl. This is episode 11. And I'm Mike McGraner, your host, and I'm here with Vidas Barzdukas, writer on Nite Owl Theatre.
Hello.
Fritz The Nite Owl, the man.
Greetings.
And with us always is Christian. I'm going to keep garthing you out. So with us always is Christian on audio and tech.
Can't do it without him.
You know, I mean, it's absolutely true.
Hello.
So more shows have happened for the 50th. Thank you for attending. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Twilight Zone the movie, and we've got a lot more titles coming this year, so it's going to be a lot of fun. But I kind of want to get back, because we're on this kick about movies. We're all just kind of chilling on Zontar and doing the movie thing. So we were discussing going to movies with our parents and our childhood experiences of theater and movies, and I drug my dad, who's still with us, thank God, but I drug my dad to Westland Cinema. We grew up sort of on the west side of Columbus, and my first rated R movie ever was Tom Savini's remake of Night of the Living Dead. And I saw it, and I see Christian giving the devil horns. What in Jupiter's balls are you doing? It was, what's his name? Bill. Oh, what's the actor? He's like an icon. He's in a bunch of horror movies. Will Butler.
Oh, yeah.
So, I think that's a member of Arcade Fire. I could have that completely wrong. But anyway, Night of the Living Dead, Tom Savini's remake, was almost used the same script, I believe, and was almost a shot-for-shot remake. My dad didn't understand that it was supposed to be campy, that it was sort of like playing off of the 60s version, and he was just like, this is terrible. But it didn't stop him from me dragging him to, let's jump back ahead of that. I was super into independent film. This before Pulp Fiction, but I was following Miramax from the ground up. I think I drug my dad to the Crying Game in Grandview. Just drug him in not knowing anything.
Yeah, sure.
I didn't know anything.
Yeah, well,
I was like 11.
Yeah.
Great first half of a movie. Super exciting. Second half, as an 11-year-old kid, I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And now as an adult, it's a fantastic movie if you go back and watch it. But I took my dad, so the magic number is 6. When I liked a movie, my dad was loving enough to know that I obsessed over it. Yeah, I didn't just see it once. I wanted to see it multiple times. The magic number is 6 because I saw Pulp Fiction 6 times in the theater. Jurassic Park 6 times in the theater. The Crow 6 times in the theater. I took my dad to see Die Hard with a Vengeance, and this is how OCD I was. As we walked in, and it was John McClane getting ready to put the sign on himself to step out on the street, but we had missed the explosion at the beginning. And since the movie was already on, I was like, Dad, we can't be in here. We got to get a refund. He's like, why? I'm like, we can't. I have to see the whole movie.
Oh, wow.
I gave him so much crap. I stayed, thankfully, and then I waited for home video for the intro, and I realized I was being a little jerk. But making my dad sit through The Crow 6 times and Pulp Fiction 6 times, which he laughed at every time, which is kind of great. But it is kind of funny how, I put my dad through a lot with my cinema.
Well, mine was slightly different because I couldn't handle gore or violence.
Oh, right.
And so I remember going to see Conan. And one of the opening scenes is when Conan's mother gets her head chopped off.
Right.
And I remember I looked at my dad, and he's like, do you want to go home? I'm like, yeah. Or Sword and the Sorcerer? Is it Excalibur? The one where they tear out his heart, right in the beginning. And
terrific movie.
Well, yeah.
Excalibur.
I'm sure it is, but I left after that one.
I think on an earlier episode you had mentioned some guy told you to shut up.
That was Jaws 2.
Oh, okay.
So a guy told me to shut up during Jaws 2 because I was crying the entire time.
Little bastard.
But I remember it was my dad was very patient, where he'd be like, do you want to go? And I'm like, yeah. And he spent the money, but I just cannot handle it. And,
Terminator, I think was
Terminator was so American.
But you were brave for that.
Yeah, I was brave for Terminator, but American Werewolf in London was the one where I hid in the bathroom.
That movie's no joke.
Yeah,
that movie. So to this day, I have a 16 millimeter print of Michael Jackson's Thriller, and it's my prized possession because I love Thriller.
Yeah,
and I spooled that up recently, and I'm watching it on the back door.
Is that Rick Baker? No,
It's Rick Baker.
John Landis.
It's John Landis put
Yes.
Rick Baker to the effects.
Right.
He's it's literally the American Werewolf crew.
Yes.
So my friend and director Mick Garris is actually in it as a zombie. Janet Jackson's in it as a zombie. I'm
okay.
learning all this stuff from Mick and from people that were there.
Yeah.
But I'm watching this thing, and I don't bother to get the screen out. I just shoot a projector toward the back door, and I see like on the white blinds, and I'm watching it. That has to be the most terrifying movie ever made. Like, I mean, to this day.
Well, let me
Yeah.
tell you something that's going to drive you crazy. Is right now on either HBO or Cinemax or Showtime, there is a movie called Thriller 40
I need
that
to watch it.
is
I need to
all about the making of Michael Jackson's Thriller.
Did you watch
Yes.
it?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Great.
Oh, absolutely.
The makeup in that, when he lifts his head up and says, "Go away,"
Yeah.
with the yellow eyes and
Yeah.
shit, that's no joke. That
no,
is
seriously,
that is
yeah.
terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like to this day, 1983. So how old is it? Yeah, it's 40.
It's called Thriller 40.
Yeah. So I mean, damn. Like
Yeah.
there isn't a scarier thing to me.
yeah.
And when I was a kid, it debuted on MTV and they played it all day. And my grandma bought the Making of Thriller VHS from Vestron Video. That's what I remember. And every time they play that thing, it's like I kept asking her to play it over and over. But I
Yeah.
would hide in the kitchen and peek around the corner. I just felt like that was the most terrifying
Yeah.
horror movie I've ever seen. And to this day, it's like when it pans to him and he's got the green face, and I mean, Rick Baker's a genius.
Oh, sure.
Because it's just like that. There is nothing scary.
Right.
And I went to that. I've been to that house a few times in L.A., like the End House, and it's on this street. I'm gonna forget the name of the street.
Wait, which one are we talking about? Thriller now?
The Thriller
Okay,
House.
Okay.
It's the house with the zombies break in at the end.
Yeah.
It's the oldest street in L.A., and it's where they do a lot of shooting. Like the house from Charmed is there, 2 doors down from Thriller, and all these kind of things. A big Victorian house, village, and the house from Thriller, standing right in front of it. I'm like,
That's pretty cool.
I mean, it is terrifying. And I went to where they did the zombie dance, but it's not the best part of town. It's in the City of Industry, I think, and it's just this alley. And I kept looking at the sewers, and I'm like, which one was it? Which one did you call out?
yeah.
But
that's neat.
I mean, the fact that I can watch, a lot of horror movies I saw as a kid, I watch now, and I'm like, they're either hokey or I get it, like Witchboard and things like that, where I'll watch and I'll be like, okay, it is what it is.
Yeah, but you've seen that before.
But
I mean,
Thriller, I've seen 1,000 times, and as an adult today, scares me to death.
So Fritz, do you have like a favorite genre of films? Do you have it like? Do you like horror films or?
because movies were so big when I was a kid, and then that I ushered at a movie theater where I would see a movie 6-8 times a week. I liked them all. We were talking before in the last show about who you went to the movies with. Me, as I say, my dad was overseas, so my 2 brothers and I would go to a movie. And we would go and we'd talk and BS and all of that stuff on the way to the film, watch the movie and not say a word. And then on the way home, we would talk about what we liked and didn't like. And the 2 things we hated was one was where the hero would not pick up the gun after they immobilized the villain. And the other thing we hated, even when we're 9-10 years old, is so many movies we say, damn it, if somebody had just talked in the first 5 minutes of this movie, said one thing to another character, this movie would not exist.
Right. Yeah. Sure.
And it was kind of interesting. Again, later on in the years, Siskel and Ebert made this point, that is, if character A said to character B what was happening with character C, there would be no movie.
Yeah.
And it used to
Those are
bum
some of the
us out that
greatest
it would be
films
so
of
obvious
misunderstanding.
that something should have happened that didn't.
Yeah.
But then we would also
you had
talk
no
about
conflict.
things that we liked
Yeah.
in the movie. So that was that was terrific.
Interesting
Oh,
question for
real
you.
quickly, in the
Yeah.
40s, when you would go to a movie that wasn't a double feature, it was not unusual. And Martin Scorsese, on an interview on HBO or Turner, mentioned that a very common practice in those days was if you went into the movie at the middle, you would watch it and then they would show it again and you would say, this is the part we came in at, and you would leave.
Oh.
And the business of, and I mean, it was common. That was what you did. You would go if you came in and a movie was a third of the way through. Because in those days, Psycho was unusual in that.
Well, they wouldn't let you.
Hitchcock said you couldn't go in once the movie started.
Good for him.
But all of the other movies, it was you could go in at any time. You'd watch it, and this is the part we came in at. And you would leave.
So, but at that time period, there were not multiplexes, right? It was all single.
Well, I mean, wait, what are we talking about?
We're talking about the 40s and 50s.
Oh, yeah, no, just singles.
So when did multiplexes?
I feel like early 80s, late 70s.
Okay.
I could be wrong.
So just curious.
You would know.
I would say late 60s or early 70s.
Because it was just 2 screens, and then it added. There's a movie that I used to watch the second half of, and then the first. And then leave when, and it was a very important movie. I'm glad I did it. It's called Teen Wolf. And it starred Michael J. Fox. And boy, did I spoil that movie for myself.
Yeah.
What a goofy ass. How did that movie get made? There are movies like that and Mannequin where you're just like.
Which both have soft spots in my heart.
Dude, I love Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now by Starship.
Sure.
Is my anthem. And it's because of Hollywood and Mannequin.
Yeah.
But. Why can they make that movie today? Because
they can.
In the 80s, we were so like, yes, give us stupid, and it was fine. But man, what can you imagine the studio pitch?
Sure.
Man falls in love with a mannequin that comes alive after midnight, maybe.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if you don't feed her before midnight or whatever. But the point is it comes alive at midnight. By the way, she's Egyptian, but it's Kim Cattrall.
Yes.
I mean, let's.
But that business of the mannequin coming to life afterwards was based on a very, very popular novel from about 1940. And I remember there was a movie made of it in the late 40s that starred Ava Gardner as the mannequin that came to life in the department store after the lights went down.
It's a classic, Mike.
And
Listen, man,
it's a classic.
I used to watch Mannequin 1,000 times. I actually want to bring Andrew McCarthy to Columbus so I can screen that if he'll play ball.
Yeah.
But my guess is he's like, are you kidding me? Mannequin.
Of all the works.
Sit Almost Fire, sure.
Yeah.
Love that movie too. Love anything with it. Andrew McCarthy's my spirit animal for the 80s. That character that he played in every movie, which is sort of like the yuppie, but like the dweeb.
Sure.
I identified with him so much as a kid, where I was like, I'm that guy. So in St. Elmo's Fire, he was always just kind of the guy that was secretly in love with Ali Sheedy but didn't want to say it, or Demi Moore, or whoever was in that.
Yeah.
I was all about the themes though. Like Man in Motion, one of the best songs of the 80s. Come on. Anything John Parr did, super cheesy. The Running Man theme song.
I don't think I've ever seen Running Man.
Well,
we need to watch The Running Man soon. Go ahead.
Well, I was about to say, how many characters did you want to? You'd say afterwards, if I could be that guy or that guy,
dude. It was Andrew McCarthy.
So that movie. So that was a fairly common kid thing,
absolutely,
to think about.
Well, it was the fantasy of they got the girl, but they were kind of the dork, and the girl didn't want the jocks. They were too obvious, and she would end up with the dork usually in half the movies. And it wasn't until 1987, Andrew McCarthy and listeners, you got to do a deep dive here. Viggo Mortensen, Ben Stiller, Molly Ringwald, and Andrew McCarthy in a movie called Fresh Horses. Now, Fresh Horses would play on cable, and everyone would watch it and be like, this movie's garbage.
Right.
Well,
But it's Andrew McCarthy was engaged to a rich girl. He was a Harvard guy. He was engaged to a rich girl. And Ben Stiller takes him to a party. And Doug Hutchison, the actor from X-Files, who played Toombs, which is the slithery guy. And if you're an X-Files fan, you know. But that actor and Ben Stiller took Andrew McCarthy to a party where he met a girl from the wrong side of the tracks, which was Molly Ringwald, blew off his engagement to the girl that he loved for this girl from the wrong side of the tracks, who ended up being married to Viggo Mortensen. And the movie is a mess.
Yeah.
But at the end of the movie, the very final scene took place at my favorite place as a kid, Kings Island. Shot at Kings Island. They're ice skating. They're at Winterfest, and they're doing this thing. And Andrew McCarthy runs into Molly Ringwald. They have this conversation, and she goes away with her new boyfriend, who's got a cardigan sweater tied around his neck.
Sure.
and he walks away crying. It's the end of the movie.
Well, there was,
And it was movies like that and The Last American Virgin where like they end with like just dudes crying, and I was all about The Cure and shit at the time, and I mean it was literally like these characters.
well, there was a guy that
I was a little kid.
my oldest son was in the same grade at Immaculate Conception here in Columbus, and this kid was an extra in that
Fresh Horses?
Fresh Horses movie.
Holy
yeah.
shit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was shot in Cincinnati. The whole thing. And it was God, I don't remember the director, but I mean you talk about powerhouse cast that went on to be, I mean Ben Stiller was nobody.
Yeah, sure.
Viggo Mortensen, The Return of the King.
Right.
Nobody.
Yeah, sure.
But man, if that ever comes out on HD on Blu-ray, I mean it's worth checking out to go, okay.
So would you call those like your guilty pleasures when it comes to movies?
So yeah, like that and The Breakfast Club. Anything that was like, I guess would be considered like teenage angst or heartbroken. It's like where the world was so dramatic. My world is falling apart because the girl didn't look at me.
Right, sure.
Those were the movies I loved as a kid, which is why Mannequin kind of did fall into that. St. Elmo's Fire, I thought was a better movie, but it was more college based. It was not so high school. It was, and I just kind of, I mean, Weekend at Bernie's, License to Drive. These were my 80s movies where I'd kind of like, I wanted to be one of those LA kids.
Sure.
And that was sort of foreshadowing for what would happen in my life when I finally got to LA in 2002. And never was one of those kids, but I was around enough.
Yeah.
It's weird. It was weird getting to become an adult and see these locations, see how these people live, and go, yeah, you know what? That wasn't me.
Sure.
And I'm fine with that.
Well, on Mannequin,
Yeah.
I think the novel was written by one of my favorite authors, the guy that did the Dobie Gillis novels and stories and movies. And I forget the name of the title of the book, but they made it. It was about. They made the movie, as I say, about 4 or 5 years after. It was in the late 40s that Ava Gardner and Robert Walker were the two stars of this thing, and Ava Gardner.
Oh, there
But
was
I
a
can't-
movie already.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And as I say, it was, but I can't remember the name of the book or the name of the movie. I just know that Ava Gardner and Robert Walker Jr. were the two stars, and it was late 40s. And of course, Ava Gardner, in those days, you look up spectacularly beautiful in the dictionary, and her picture was there.
Did you guys?
But anyway, like I say,
Quentin
the
Tarantino references her in Grindhouse.
Okay.
the mannequin coming to life has been that theme has been around for a lot of years.
Yeah, but only in the 80s could you get, because the mall craze. The thing about the 80s was indoor malls were like new, and it was a big deal. To me today, it's still a big deal, but they're all kind of going by the wayside for outdoor malls.
Sure.
Which in Ohio is weird because it's like there's this thing called winter. You know?
Sure, right. Yeah.
But they just bulldozed my childhood mall, Westland Mall.
Well, how big were drive-in theaters when you were growing up?
First movie I ever saw, first movie experience ever, 1982. I was 1 year old, and I remember this.
Oh wow.
I don't know how that's possible. Where Target is on West Broad Street, west side of Ohio, there was the Holiday Drive-In.
Right.
And I saw a double feature of E.T. and Twilight Zone, the movie, in 1982. It's my first experience.
Oh wow.
And E.T. was the first movie. Twilight Zone, I fell asleep by the time the John Lithgow thing happened, or I'd have been traumatized for life.
I remember seeing The Incredible Shrinking Woman with
Lily Tomlin, yeah.
And then I don't know if it was paired up with, but this must have been a different time, with The Howling. They could not have put those two together. I have not looked at the dates because
Well, Howling was 81. And I'm
it-
pretty sure that Shrinking Woman was 81.
I think it might have been 80.
Okay.
because Christian, I know you're a huge Lily Tomlin fan.
I do love Lily Tomlin.
But I don't know if that
She's
was
great. I just watched, what was the Steve Martin movie I watched with her where he's possessed by her? I just watched this. Oh my God, you know this.
I can't. I know the movie,
But
I
his
can't think of the
physical
title.
comedy is so amazing in that movie.
Did I see that too in the drive-in? I don't know.
So she dies and possesses him,
Yeah.
and he's like, one half of his body is her, and one half is his.
Yeah.
And he is Steve Martin. I mean, you see his talent, like
right.
he's like trying to cross the street, and
Yeah, but I remember
what is that called?
But I remember going to the drive-in with my parents, and then the speakers were these giants, like the size of toasters, you know, putting them, in the windows.
On the window, yeah.
And I remember watching those movies, but I don't think we ever got. I was a kid, so I don't know if I lasted long enough for the second movie.
Yeah.
My parents might have watched the second one, but then we took our kids to see Jaws, the remake, or not the remake, the
Revenge.
when they re-released it. We saw that at the drive-in.
Oh, damn.
And then
it's not the Lance Guest version.
No, so we saw that recently. But yeah.
Well, Columbus back in the 50s. I came to Columbus in 1950, but I mean to say Columbus they had a ton of drive-in theaters, every part of town.
Yeah.
I go out
2 or 3 or 4.
I'm dating somebody from Huber Heights right now, and I go out there, and you can see remnants of old drive-in. I mean, you can literally see the land where the entrance gate was.
Yeah.
And there's just no screens. And Ohio had, if you go to cinematreasures.com is an amazing website where you can look up any theater that once existed, and there's pictures of it. Ohio was the king of drive-ins.
Yeah. Well,
they're all gone.
It was a thing in the
Dixie and
in the 50s. If you were in high school and you wanted to make out, you took your girl to the drive-in.
Dude, we should off topic,
and
not
it
related
worked.
to
They
that,
were
but
great. You missed a lot of movies, but had
of course.
a great time in the back seat.
We should get Tracy and everybody together and go to the South Twin just to see a double feature some night.
They're fun.
I haven't been in years to the drive-in.
It's fun. It is fun.
Well, I think there's a drive-in theater outside of North Ridgeville that you and I
it's amazing. The
You and I
automatic
talked about talking to them about showing Nite Owl.
I contacted them about it. Never,
no answer.
No, but it's right off the freeway.
Yeah. Well, how many are left in Columbus?
Just the one.
South
Just
Twin.
the one.
South Twin on
yeah.
High Street.
And then if you go to Dayton, there's the
I think it was
Dixie-
called the
Dixie
Southland.
Twin.
I think it was called the Southland when
Yeah.
in the 50s.
Lancaster, Ohio is Sunset Drive-In. And if you go out near Doug and Erica, it's the High Road Drive-In in past Marysville.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I mean, that's the central. There was the
Do
Melody.
they show movies every night?
Yeah. Well, in
s-
season.
Actually, I don't think so. I don't know if they're just on the weekends because they have the flea market as well.
Yeah.
Oh,
they
right.
had that.
Well, South Twin, I mean, they went almost to December this year. 'Cause they were
Okay.
showing, like, during Halloween, they picked, like, great double features. They were showing, like, Jennifer's Body with Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 or some crazy, like...
Oh, really?
Yeah, just stuff that, like, I'm like, I don't know who's going to see that, but...
Yeah, sure. Well, well online they actually ask the audience. They said, what are some movies you guys would like to see?
Because they're opening with Ghostbusters this year.
Yeah, so they asked for what do people want to see as the double feature?
Right.
And people were voting online for stuff. So
Yeah, no, there's another Ghostbusters film.
Ghostbusters
Out
Ice
right now.
or something like that.
Frozen Empire. It's out right now.
Yeah, they've had a bunch of the stars of that on the Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel and Seth Rogen,
Yeah.
Ryan. A lot of the stars of the Ghostbusters, Frozen,
yeah.
whatever, have been on the talk shows.
And
the last
I've
couple
been
of
going
weeks.
to Dave Chappelle's club out in Yellow Spring,
Mm-hmm.
seeing a couple shows, and Bill Murray showed up there the other night. And the story was, excuse my cough, this guy's waiting in a line for the restroom. And the way the club's set up, it's a really nice club, but it's in Yellow Springs. He bought the old firehouse, so it's like right in town. And you go in, and when you're standing in line for the restroom, you're kind of where the start of the VIP green room is that goes upstairs. And Bill Murray came over to this guy standing in line for the restroom and got uncomfortably close to him, like shoulder to shoulder, and he's like, having a good time? And the guy just looked over and he's like, yeah, I'm having a great time, but you're the legend Bill Murray. That's what he chose to tell him. And Bill Murray just smiles and he grabs his nose and goes, wah, and then goes upstairs. And it's like, I totally believe that story because of course.
right.
Of course. Yeah. And you can't take your cell phone in. You can't take your code in. So I've been there twice, and it's a great place, but it's like the experiences you have in there. Like Chris Rock was there one night. I mean, just famous people just go there. And like you run into people and you're just like, I have nothing. I have no memory to hold on to, but except my own.
But that's
And
okay because you are aware of.
It's cool.
Well,
It is
speaking of gross and noses,
You're in the moment.
There is a movie out now that I've seen the previews for on TV where the guy has no nose, and I can't watch that preview.
Fritz, I think you're hallucinating.
No. It's a thing that I think it's a Western, and the guy again, it's a preview I've seen that they're going to show that I'm not going to watch. But I mean, the guy has no nose.
I think it's Walter
and
Goggins.
We're talking major
Walton
league
Goggins?
gross. Pardon?
I think it's Walter Goggins. I think that's the actor.
Is that it?
I've had drinks with that guy. He's great.
Okay, well, in this movie, he has no nose, and it's
Freaks you out?
oh,
Let that be a lesson for our fans with no nose.
The alien popping out of the chest in Alien, to me, is not as gross as the guy with no nose.
Listen, to our
But
fans that have physical
that was a
deformities,
nose.
you're still loved. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, yes, you are loved. But what movie would this be then if it's Walt Goggins?
If only we had a device that we could
God.
look this up.
Since we're live, I guess I got to look this up real time. Talk amongst yourselves.
What
I don't think I have the Zontar Wi-Fi.
What are we looking up?
I do.
The movie that you're talking about, the person with the guy with no
Walt
nose.
Goggins movie 2024 is what I said.
Oh.
The Uninvited. It's a comedy drama. Oh, is it Fallout?
Yeah, it's Fallout. Yeah.
It's Fallout. Okay, let me tell you about Fallout.
I
So
don't know. I just have seen the previews of it, and I saw the previews of it. I got the wrong glasses on.
Scarecrow-looking guy with no nose?
I think that's it. though.
Yep.
yeah, so the thing about Fallout, so Kyle MacLachlan's in this, and I hosted a panel with him in the cast of Twin Peaks in Orlando recently, and Kyle had just been cast, and he couldn't really talk about his role or anything, but he said that he's in Fallout, and it's a very popular video game that's getting an adaptation on Amazon, and a lot of great actors in it.
Well, it was only because you told the Bill Murray nose story
Yes, yeah,
that reminded me of that particular.
Well, you know the French fry Bill Murray story, right?
The what?
The French fry story with
No.
Bill Murray, where he lives in South Carolina, and these people were like at a chicken place, and Bill Murray walks in to order food for him and his kids or whatever, and he grabs a couple fries off someone's table and just eats them. And they look at him like, what? He's like, no one will believe you. That's the story. And so that's why I absolutely believe the Bill Murray story with Dave Chappelle's Club. It's
Sure,
like,
sure.
I want to meet that guy so bad. I can't wait for the new Ghostbusters, which is out now. I need to get my ass out and see it. But they're in it. They're all in it, the original actors. Ghostbusters is near and dear to my heart. You will see it later this year on Nite Owl. But, yeah. That's the one episode we shot where it was before the 2016 one where the women, Melissa McCarthy and everybody are in it.
Right.
So at the end of the episode, we guess.
No, I thought that we saw the original. We showed the original.
Well, no, we show the original, but when we're hosting it, we guessed at what the next chapter would be.
Oh, okay.
And we're like, so far it's Melissa McCarthy and these people, but it's not the right cast. 'Cause
Right.
It wasn't the final. And so when we show that, that's
Yeah, I think there were two.
Sure.
There were two with the original cast in it. Am I not correct? The first one and the
so
second
one and two,
Yeah.
and then they show up in four. They show up in three, but as different people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of Ghostbusters is kind of a complete.
Wait, which is the third one? What is?
That's Answer the Call. It's Melissa McCarthy, Kristen Wiig.
That's
Kate
the third one.
McKinnon.
That's the third one.
Which, listen, on its
I thought it was great. I enjoyed
Yeah, I
it.
love
a
Well,
lot.
here's the thing. On its own, it's a fine movie. As a Ghostbusters film, I think that's why people couldn't get over it, is because they were trying to beat the Ghostbusters thing into our heads. The movie is very colorful. It's very
but
fun.
I also think there's the fanboy problem.
Oh,
That
where
there's
it's
women,
like,
you know,
absolutely. There's a big sexist thing.
Oh yeah, there's girls in my world, and they don't want that, and you're ruining the thing.
Right. But I mean, I just watched it recently with somebody that I'm dating. We watched all four in a row. And first one, loved. Second one, they said it's like the Disney Channel made a Ghostbusters film.
Sure.
And it's absolutely, as an adult, it's my first time watching it in 15 years. And I was like, ooh, this isn't funny. Not at all. Like, I mean, everything I remember about it is not funny.
Right.
Except for the French guy that's like Vigo's, the museum curator.
It's been so long.
Peter McNichol.
He's so great. He's so great. But boy, that movie doesn't land a damn thing.
Well, it's trying to sell toys.
Right. So then you watch Answer the Call, and I'm like, oh, these girls are great. But as they said, they felt like when there was a joke, it went on for pages when it should have been just absolutely right.
That is true. That is true.
I mean, the movie's 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Right.
Chill out. Like, it doesn't need to be that long.
Sure.
And then Afterlife, they were like, I loved it. And
Sure.
it kicks you in the sentimental heart, which is what it should do, but also not the feel of what Ghostbusters is. It's not supposed to be sentimental. It's supposed to be fun, and So I liked Afterlife a lot. I'm looking forward to this new one. My only concern is, because I haven't been to see it yet, but my only concern is there's not a lot of advertising for it. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I have a feeling the box office is going to kind of.
Did you guys show Ghostbusters for Nite Owl?
We did.
No, for the original, like
Oh.
on the.
I don't think so.
No.
It was made in '84, but I don't know.
Like earlier we were talking about the Brat Pack movies.
Wait,
Did you guys?
if it was 84, we probably showed it then.
So like with the Brat Pack movies, did you guys show those?
Yeah.
Like Breakfast Club and all that. Okay.
Right.
I love Breakfast Club. A lot of people hate that movie because they're just like, it's pointless. But I love that kind of, yeah.
The difficulty with being a movie theater usher and doing Nite Owl is I've just seen so many movies that a lot of them I can't remember, or 2 or 3 or 4 of them will sort of like mush together in one thing, and I can't remember specifically things about them.
Yeah.
But as I say, some of the movies I would see like 4 and 5 and 6 times in a week. And
well, that brings up an interesting topic, because one of the questions we get all the time from fans is like, Fritz, do you remember what was that movie with the witch and the blah?
Yeah, I get that a lot.
I'm like 6,000 broadcasts, dude. Oh yeah, I don't.
Right.
Sometimes
He's not going to remember.
If they name the stars that are in it, a lot of times that will trigger my memory as to what the actual movie was. But when they just give me a basic plot, I can think of about 20 movies that had, that plot.
So what do you think about asking people on Facebook to ask questions for Fritz that we can read during one of the...
I did that today.
Oh, did you really?
Well, I've done that every week.
Because that would be kind of cool just to have people, ask questions to...
Well, as I say, I think that'd be great. I'd love to get the questions, answer them, but...
Should we go to the question?
Well, no, I'd really like to know the age of the person, or at least ballpark age, of when were they born, what year did they graduate from high school, something to give me an idea of, are we talking from the same frame of reference?
Well, actually, this is something interesting. So when I went to go see Blade Runner with my kids, my daughter was there. She's 19. And when she was there, she saw her classmate from high school there. And so my daughter was like, hey, why are you here? And she goes, oh, because my dad was a huge Nite Owl fan, and that's why I'm here, because my dad took me. And then she asked my daughter, why are you here? And she's like, well, because my dad wrote the episode. And so so it's kind of wild, but but when I was sitting at the top row for Blade Runner and watching all the people kind of coming in, I think the majority of them were... I'm 50, so I think they were slightly younger than me, but you did see people bringing their kids. Mm-hmm. You did see like the younger crowd, at least from my vantage point.
Well, I mean, RoboCop, a guy brought his son.
Oh, that's right. His son was pretty young.
And his son was like 11.
Yeah, I thought it was a little bit too young.
And I told him, I said, we're showing the X-rated version, and he was like, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was a little bit too young. But
at the same time,
I know.
What's funny is there is that question of like, when do you subject your kid to violence of that nature? As a kid, when I was subjected to it, I looked at my mom and I was like, I wonder how they did that.
Oh, I did not.
And she knew I was okay.
I thought it was all real.
Oh, yeah.
Well, first time I saw professional wrestling, I thought it was real, and I was like, why is nobody stopping this? Like, why, they're beating that guy up. Why is nobody
stopping
To
our listeners, Vidas was a paranoid freak.
No, I could not, I didn't know the difference.
I mean, that makes sense. I mean, it's shocking to see that for the first time. But yeah,
what are you looking up on your phone?
the questions.
Oh,
And yeah, most people have sent questions where it's like, I saw this one movie on Nite Owl where like, and I'm just like, no.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
Well, that might be interesting though.
30, 40 years ago.
Right.
But the hunt for me is finding the movie. So it's fun to see a question and be like, okay, I'll try and figure that out.
Right.
Well, can't you see most of them on the internet now?
Yeah.
Just type in the name of the movie you want to see, and
Oh.
in more times than not, the ones I've seen and wanted to see again that don't show up on HBO,
If it's
Turner
available on
Classic,
streaming,
I
yeah.
can look it up on the
Yeah.
on the internet, and 9 out of 10 times I'll find them. That again, they weren't great movies in their time, but I just enjoyed them when I saw them, and
I started obsessing over making a
Yeah.
horror drive. I bought a 5 terabyte drive just to collect from, like, I went to Box Office Mojo, which tracks the box office report of every movie ever released, and I clicked on horror genre, and I'm down. Well, not down. Just like saving every movie that was made and released with the box office report from the 40s to now. That was horror. So my goal is to just have this nice, buy all these movies and have this little collection of horror on one drive for easy access at any time. Yeah, and it'll be kind of sweet. I don't know what it is about horror. I mean, okay, here's a question. If you were a band and you wrote the song you knew was a hit, and let's say that's a horror movie, but you really love jazz, you love dramas, you love musicals and all this stuff. Did you ever feel like in your career that horror was the song you have to play as opposed to the song you felt passionate about? You know what I mean? Like, as far as, because Nite Owl Double Chiller became so big that it was like, well, you showed Gone with the Wind on Monday, we missed that. Or yeah.
No, because I didn't pick out the movies on Nite Owl.
Right, but I mean, with you personally, like you like horror, it's fine, but it's not your favorite genre. Were you surprised when Double Chiller became such the night of your week that was embraced by fans?
That was the night we always beat Carson.
Yeah.
And no, it didn't surprise me because horror was big for kids all the way back to the late 30s, early 40s. And so it was kind of a thing that one of the things was that as things got gorier, we kind of grew up with it. We'd see horror A in this picture, and then a year later we'd see horror A and B, and then we'd see... So we kind of evolved with it. And so it was surprising to us, but it didn't really scare us because we'd seen something similar.
So I
earlier.
do have another question, because you were inducted into the Horror Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. But that's really not what Nite Owl Theatre was all about.
No.
It was a lot of different genres. So was it kind of surprising? Do you feel like...
Right. Well, no, Friday Night Double Chiller was... more people remember me for that and being a horror movie host when they don't or they've forgotten that I showed musicals and westerns and dramas and war pictures, comedies. There's
some people that have no idea he was
such strange things as we would show a surfing picture with. Who were the two?
Frankie and Annette.
We'd show a surfing picture with Frankie and Annette, and the next night we would have like Diary of Anna Frank.
Right.
And it was just a wide range of movies, except Friday was always the Double Chiller, even before I started doing Nite Owl.
And so then you just became known as, even though you did everything else, you just became known as a horror host.
Right.
Okay. Well, the popularity of the show on Friday nights.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was a thing that a lot of my audience started watching it in 4th, 5th grade, and then as they watched more, their tastes in movies expanded to where they'd watch the Betty Grable movie on Wednesday, the Guy Madison movie on Friday, or on Thursday, the Robert De Niro movie on, so every day except Friday was a different kind of movie, and it wasn't set as a specific. On Tuesday we only show westerns.
Yeah, sure.
It's almost like growing up. You start to say, okay, I want to, as a kid you love horror, but then I want to check out what he's doing Wednesday.
Oh, no, yeah,
it's
sure,
kind of
sure.
neat to.
Well, but the thing is, when I would ad-lib this stuff during the horror movies, I might mention something from another movie that wasn't a horror movie that had a relationship to, maybe the star was in this and was a dancer, and now in the horror film he's the monster.
Well, interesting horror is the kind of horror movies like Silence of the Lambs, Jodie Foster,
Yeah.
The Changeling, George Scott.
Right.
These movies that have like these people that would almost you'd see them as above horror, that are doing these horror films, and you're kind of like, oh, that's kind of.
Well, it's even
It definitely elevates it.
Well, I've got to admit, the Hannibal.
She wasn't Jamie Lee Curtis.
No. Who's the psychiatrist?
Oh, Donald Pleasance. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got to admit that the Hannibal Lecter mask did make me startle and jump.
The gold one.
Yeah. With the mouth covered up and
that scene in Silence of the Lambs where he is killing the cops in the cell is really frightening. I mean, just opera playing.
What amazes me is that there is somebody who created that thought of it, had it in his head, and was able.
We all
to,
do.
Yeah, but
It's
I mean,
our fear.
there
It's
is
like what we're afraid of.
there is stuff that I see and I say, geez, I could never have thought of that, or I couldn't have done that.
Yeah.
It's
Well, how do you think Stephen King feels where it's like he writes these horrible things, but he's not a murderer? So it's like, how do you explain your psyche? You think of the most screwed up things, and it's like, I hope people don't think I'm nuts, but then,
Sure.
like, as an artist, how hard is it to just say, here's what I'm thinking?
I think a lot of times for the artist, it's a surprise.
Yeah.
I mean, he does
It just
a
pops in your
painting,
head.
a novel, or so forth, and all of a sudden it knocks it out of the park.
Yeah.
And,
Well, I think it's the thinking of it, but then also kind of going in and exploring it. It's not just the idea, but it's also.
But you don't want people to think like I'm twisted.
or just like you're like, oh, I've thought of that, but now I'm going to start writing about it, and I'm going to expand on it, for an entire chapter, and that's.
well, when I tried to do my comic strip, I wanted a hero who wasn't Dick Tracy, who wasn't Steve Canyon, who wasn't, because they were all super moral guys.
Yeah.
And I created a lead character who was essentially Han Solo, kind of a rogue, and he did the right thing, not because he opted for that, but because if he didn't do that, that was the only option that left him alive, or gave him a chance to stay alive without killing. And when I submitted it to the different syndicates and so forth, all of them wrote back and said, your main character is not morally appropriate for the newspaper strips.
Yeah.
And but it was a thing that it used to bother me in the movies that these guys would, like the first Flash Gordon serial from 1936, fantastic, one of the best serials ever made. I couldn't understand why Flash Gordon, Buster Crabbe, why he didn't fall for Ming's daughter, who was light years more beautiful and sensual and sexy than Dale Arden, who spent most of the movie falling down and screaming.
Right.
And
it was a different time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's kind of interesting that the serials you saw once a week, so there was a whole week in between, whereas now you can see this. You can see a show, like MASH or I Love Lucy. You can see every night a different version.
You can, but
and that week separation made the buildup of, boy, I got to be good this week. I got to get an A on that effing math test. Because if I don't get the money for Saturday, I miss chapter 3 of Captain Marvel.
So, but how many?
Go ahead. No, I was just going to say Breaking Bad is like one of the best shows I've ever seen in my life, and I didn't start it until it was about to air the second half of the final season. So what I did is I marathoned it all, and then I had to watch week to week, eight weeks to end it. And there is nothing like the momentum you have, and then like, this is torture.
One of the things I hate about movie and TV shows now is they give you a sample of what happened the week before, but it's just different scenes. And if you haven't seen the show from the beginning, you don't know who's who to whom. What is the MacGuffin? What are they looking for? What do they want to do?
I don't start a show unless I can watch it all. That's
And-
the thing is, yeah.
That's one of the.
lost.
Well, no, but I mean, it's like the old serials, the ones week to week. They would start off with, like Star Wars. I mean, it started off with that nice, slow crawl across the screen. You knew who Princess Leia was. You knew what the
Yeah.
Empire was. You knew who and what everything was going on. And I just can't understand why the serial makers of today aren't bright enough to, it's like a show, it's called The Outlander. Well, I missed the first season, and I had to watch maybe 2 seasons of it before I finally was able to figure out
Yeah, sure.
how this 20th century woman got cast back in the Revolutionary War days and how she could travel from those days and married a guy and had a kid.
Right.
But the kid existed in the 20th century and could go. And it took me like about, I'd say 6-8 months of watching it before I finally figured out who's who to whom and how did that happen and what do they want to do.
Anything with time travel or a multiverse, I will not watch anymore. I'm done. Done with that plot device.
Just can't do it anymore.
It's bullshit. It's like, oh, they're in danger. Let's jump 6 years ahead, and I cannot any longer stand the multiverse stuff. It's like, just show me what's on this plane.
Sure, right.
Or to me, it's like just a cartoon. It's like it's an endless story.
Right.
Well, among the many,
And I feel bad because I'm not caught up on like Marvel and
Right,
everything.
right.
no, but I mean,
It's,
among the many terrible things about the movie The Flash is that the multiverse,
the one with Michael Keaton, right? Or the Ezra Miller, Michael Keaton.
the one that's
Yeah, the
on-
newest one.
the newest, the
Yeah.
only one.
Well.
But I mean, it's like the TV show of The Flash was terrific, but the movie has got the multiverse in it, and it's got a character who it's like they wrote it and they never had read the original Flash, Golden Age or Silver Age.
John Wesley Shipp is my Flash, 1990. Christian knows
Word.
what's up.
Well, there was a
Dad on Dawson's Creek.
there was a there was a Flash not syndicated show. It was a network show for about, I think it ran for about 2 years.
Yeah,
1990.
1990. That was the one.
And
I love that show.
Yeah, and the special effects on that were terrific, and the stories were good, and the character adhered pretty much to what the character was
Right.
in the
Did he have like a
comic book.
foam muscle
Where
Yeah, he had this kind of spongy
suit?
suit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was they had a reason for it because it was able to absorb the vibration.
So if he got shot, it was like he would sort of like take in the slow
Okay.
motion bullet.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It's a great show.
Gotcha.
They just couldn't seem to get it aired at the right time.
Was it on like ABC or something?
CBS.
Like Friday
It was
nights. or
CBS.
something?
It was a CBS show.
because while I was doing the research
yeah,
for
'cause
Nite
you were-
Owl,
yeah, yeah.
I would be able to watch that show
That's right.
on there, and as they say, that series was really well done for the effects that they had at the time.
Yeah, I used to watch
and
it religiously.
the actor was terrific and everything. But the TV series, it was sort of and this feature film, absolutely terrible.
Which kills me because I want to see Michael Keaton as Batman again.
Yeah.
But
He's the best thing in it.
I'm sure
He is.
it did not look good. Well, I have such a thing against what Ezra Miller did as a person that it's kind of like it's really hard to watch him and go, oh, he gets a pass. I mean, he choked out old elderly couples and robbed people. And
Yeah.
it's like at this point, it's like I don't want a sequel with that guy. Come on, it's a jerk.
Well, it's all starting over now.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think DC should just hang it up. I mean, James Gunn or no, it's like, you know what? People are superheroed out because even Marvel has one release coming out this year.
Well, that's a lot of that's due to the writer's strike, and
Well, yeah,
but I mean,
Well, I don't know if it's superheroed out. I don't know if it's also that the people are not putting out a good product.
exactly.
well,
I
but
think
that's
that's
the
a
thing
lot
is
of it.
like
It was
Endgame happened, and I think everyone felt a finality to that.
Well, sure, but
so it's kind of like, well, I don't want to start this next.
No, but I would watch some of the other, like I was really excited about some of the other series, but
Yeah.
I'm like, this like Falcon and
Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier, I'm like, this really wasn't that good. But then WandaVision was great.
Absolutely.
Like everybody watched that one.
I mean, I loved Mandalorian. I loved the Star Wars live action stuff they've been doing is kind of a game changer. I mean, Andor
was great.
Yeah.
but that's the thing is I think it's not all of it, but I mean, I'm impressed with how much better the small screen Star Wars is.
I think it's the right people who are doing it.
Because I
you
feel
got
kind of
Favreau, you
cheated,
got Filoni.
and I feel kind of cheated we didn't have them on the big screen.
Sure.
Which is why it's sort of like, man. Which,
Yeah.
by the way, did you ever see the new Indiana Jones yet?
The Dial of Destiny?
Yeah, I have that.
Fritz, did you see that one?
No, not
Dial of
yet.
Destiny? No.
Did you not like it? Did
I
you like
saw a thing.
I
that
thought it was very true to Raiders. I was like, this is a nice little follow. I mean, it wasn't Crystal Skull to me. It was better. I mean, it was, yeah. Go
I saw some kind of news program where they were talking about AI, and they showed how AI had been applied to Harrison Ford.
Oh,
in-
very much, yeah.
in
Like
the-
anytime he jumps or anything, it's
Yeah.
the back of him and
It was the face.
Oh, yeah, when
Oh,
they de-aged him.
de-age him, yeah.
Yeah.
They aged him, and as I say, it showed him from the original Indiana Jones to this one, and it was all done. They said AI.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
The movie feels like Crystal Skull is kind of a joke. This movie to me felt like the closest we could get to Raiders if we were making a follow-up today. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but yeah. What did you think? Did you know?
I didn't really enjoy it. I thought that the de-aging, it still felt like Polar Express to me, where I'm watching it, you know, and you're like,
and they have something's off.
yeah, something's off, and so I'm not really into it anymore because you're like, he's not really smiling, he's not really frowning, he's somewhere in between. And
But
so,
did you feel like it was more of an adventure?
No, well, no, because I'm out of it. So, and then some of the adventure stuff that he's doing, I'm like, you know, because it's AI, because it's all like CGI and all this, I'm like, well, he'd be dead. Oh,
Yeah.
he'd be dead if he did that. You know, he'd be dead if he did that. And so I'm always taken out of it. And then there were just too many, like, I think, you know, you miss the character development, you miss some of the story elements, and I felt like we're kind of jumping from action sequence to action sequence where they're like jumping out of the plane or they're doing this, and I'm like, you know, guys, can we just rest for a little bit, or
One of the
let's
major-
develop the character here, or
one of the major factors was you didn't have Spielberg at the helm.
well, no, I think that's fine because he also did Crystal Skull. Like, thank God he wasn't there because
Yeah.
I think Spielberg is now getting into.
I feel like that was much more of a Lucas movie, though. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know, but so
But when I saw Aliens, I was like, that ain't Steven.
no, but when I was watching it, I'm like, I didn't have to see this again.
Right.
You know, but that's just me. I felt with can we just get back to the realism of things? Like, let's just get into the fact that he is that old and let's celebrate it. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
you know,
well, and that's the role, too, is he kind of plays the old man, and then all of a sudden, when he's doing the action, it's like, what do you have to make him...
well, I didn't care. That's the other thing. It's like when
Superhuman,
we're
yeah.
watching these, like when he's in the tuk-tuk or whatever,
Yeah.
like that sequence, I'm like, it wasn't really that exciting to me. It wasn't really that interesting to watch.
Yeah.
I felt that the color sequences, whatever they chose for the color, took me out of the movie because I felt it was not realistic anymore
Right.
with the color grading. And dude, I can go on and on and on and on. So I thought it was fine.
I mean,
I'd have to see it
my
again.
problem with Crystal Skull was that there were things like
But nobody cares what I think. But
the fire ants knew who the good guys were versus the bad
sure,
guys.
yeah.
And the monkeys that Shia
never had to-
LaBeouf
yeah, I
was
never
flying
seen it.
with, they knew who the
Oh,
bad
yeah,
guys were.
the Tarzan?
And- yeah, so
Yeah.
my whole thing is I was like, Crystal Skull felt like a cartoon, whereas this new Dial of Destiny, I was like, if you're going to do it, this was 50% better than Crystal Skull. And I think that like it made me feel like excited again for Indiana Jones. It also made me sad because I knew it was kind of like the final sign-off. I liked Karen Allen coming back.
Sure.
I didn't know she was still alive.
Yeah, sure. Right.
So I felt bad for that. And then I realized that was Margot Kidder that passed away. And so I know. No, I mean, listen, I'm not to say anything about Karen Allen, but I just, yeah, the final scene of the movie when Indy grabs his hat and everything. I mean, it's a nice little period, but yeah, you can't recapture the magic sometimes of things, which is what I'm worried about when I go see Ghostbusters, because it's like, you know,
Sure.
we'll see. Afterlife is great, but I don't know where they're going from here. So, but anyway, thank you so much for joining us for pretty much 3 episodes in a row of movies. And we will always continue to talk about movies, because movies are great. It's why we love everything. It's why we grew up watching Fritz. Keep coming to our shows. You know, we've got a lot planned for this year. The end of May is the season 2 Blu-ray set. So get your orders in for that, and look forward to some online events and other things to celebrate 50 years of Fritz. I mean, here we are at year 14 of the reboot, and the original run was 17 years. So I can tell you from this side of things that's a pretty wild feeling. What about you, doing it twice in a row?
I can't believe that I started Nite Owl in fall of 1954. You guys weren't even alive then. Television was so different. The world was so different. And it just, the time, I know your parents have told you and so forth, the time has just flown by since 1934. I mean, and one of the things I like about this conversation is you guys remind me of things that I grew up with and I haven't thought of for 20, 30 years. For example, like the business of, this is the part we came in on, as the way people went to the movies way back then, and how your behavior and your grades affected whether you could make the Saturday afternoon matinee, and just so many nice memories. And it's kind of interesting in the sense that I'm able to hear the different evolution of music as it grew and changed from one artist and type of music to the next, to the next, to the next. It just one of the very few advantages to having been around so long.
Sure.
But I mean, like in comic books, it's the same thing. I can remember I had maybe 2 or 3 copies of Action Number 1, which is worth millions now, that we tossed into the paper drive.
Yeah.
You know. So, like I say, life goes by fast. Enjoy it while you're living it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. We're all in one big treehouse together, watching movies and feeling nostalgic and reliving our childhood, and we'll carry that along as far as you will support us. So thank you so much for your support. I know Fritz enjoys knowing that the shows are still packed, and keep listening, and we'll keep making it. So see you next time. Conversations with the Owl.